Okay, this video is about my microphone desires, requests, if you like, as of 2003. Now I've done the video. I was about to start editing it and I spotted a comment and I thought, oh, I should have included that. And then I looked at a few other things and thought, oh, I should have included that. So I'm putting this at the front. I'm going to put some more at the end, and the actual video is in between those 2 points. So here's the bit I'm adding at the front. It's because somebody called Vergurley Tar with double AR, 9083. He mentioned it was about the Shure Beta. And he said, yeah, I agree with you, but wait till you hear it with a heavy rock band. And I thought, yes, there's something I should make plain, and I should have made plain all along, actually, really. Never particularly, was obvious to me, but I thought it would be obvious to everybody else, but maybe not, is that with all the microphones I'm using and the kind of music I do, it has what I'm going to call big voice. That's not to say my voice is big, but it means to say that the voice is big in the music. The music can take it, even though kind of some of the bluesy things I do, and even if I head towards a bit of rock, then the voice will be there at the front so you can hear all the stuff. So it'll be louder than the normal mix. If you listen to old school Sinatra stuff and so on with a big band, the voice is right there, despite being in front of a big band the way it's mixed. You don't really hear that in rock. You hear the voice in there. If I might demonstrate a bit, what if I do this? Oh. Nobody gonna take my car, they're gonna ride it to the end. Nobody gonna take my car, they're gonna drive it to the end. Nobody, I'm using that there. So all you need is that. Up to 20 kilohertz, forget it. Why? I mean, it's there, but it doesn't matter if it's not there if you don't hear it. The lower stuff, doesn't matter if it's not there. Actually, that, I specifically would know, I'm playing this piano is just like electric piano, is acoustic in the room, and the mic's here, and I've got headphones on, so I don't know what the balance is like, and I can't do anything about it later. But if I go back a bit further, nobody gonna take my car, they're gonna drive it to the end. Nobody gonna take my car, and explodes on everything. So I don't know what that was like, but you could still, there was that mix all right. I think the voice could be even further back. If I want to go down and be lower, where it's not going to come, but I'm going to have the detail with this SR314, so I'm going to put it down the octave and see what I have to do there. Nobody gonna take my car, they're gonna drive it to the end. Oh, can't make it. After having done that, nobody gonna take my car, they're gonna drive it to the end. Nobody gonna take my car, she stays close on every band. Nobody gonna take my car. Nobody gonna take my car. Nobody gonna. So I have to be a lot closer and a lot louder. This one's nice and clean down there, so I don't know how that will work out when I listen to the editing. There's nothing I can do about it, so I'll leave it in, and maybe what I've just said, you think, what's he on about? Because you can't hear it. So that's the thing. Big voice, then the quality. Narrow voice, sat right in the rock or whatever type of music, then it's not what I do, and I think anything will do almost, really, because you just need that bit. We need those frequencies up there. It's all about that, not proximity, what's the word? Presence band. Okay. Oh, one other thing then, to remember too with all these mics, that was very interesting with Josephine Arthur, the video I did where I went round to her place using the Compact 60 and I took my Bose L1 Compact. What I noticed was that the Compact 60 has an SM58-ish, not just SM58, all of them have that presence peak push thing up there and truncated bass. So you've got two lots of it. You've got the mic doing it and then you've got the system doing it. To me, it was unmusical. And I noticed when I used my Biodynamic M88, which doesn't do that so much, it has got a lift at the top, but nowhere near so much, it's very broad. But what happened with that is it didn't really flatter the M88 because the nice warmth of the M88 couldn't come through that system. And the other thing I noticed was that the handling noise, which the M88 isn't brilliant at, the upper handling noise, the kind of when you touch it, let me just show you on this one. This is another Bayer, but I've got ready for something later. That kind of area, not so much not the real low thud, but that when it came through the AER boosted that so much that it was just like almost unusable. And then I put the M88 through the Bose L1 Compact, which is much broader and hasn't got so much of that push there, and it was as I expected it to be. Still not as good as it might be, but fine. So the other thing then is the rest of your system. If you're going to have a big mic, a mic for a big sound, clear sound, expanded frequency, detail, really the rest of the system needs to have it as well. Otherwise, you know, I wouldn't say you're back where you started, but you're sort of halfway back there, because the system now does what the lesser mic would be doing. So it's a whole system, really. Okay, on to the video I've already recorded as I edit. And then there's something I want to show you at the end. Yeah. Greetings, one and all. I've got the feeling of late. I hope you're well. But I've been using these microphones more and more, stage microphones, but I've been using them for recording here and so on. And thought it's time for an update on how I feel about things. What would be my request, if you like? I'm on the SR40V Earthworks at the moment, but I'm going to move over to this. I've got these switches, might be a pop or two, hopefully not. Now I'm on the, sounds it needs to go up a little bit, the V90R, Biodynamic V90R. All right, what would I like in microphones? Well, I like the idea of ribbons. This is a ribbon mic. I like the idea, I like the simplicity. I like the speed of them. I think Biodynamic are the only company with their M500, and they do a few others as well, but specifically stage vocal ones. I think the M500 and this V90R is a recreation of that. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit more and move it a little bit further away from my mouth. So what I would like is, yeah, to explore the ribbon mics. I would like a little less this one's accentuated in the top. Somebody told me it's to do with the way they have a flat bit of the ribbon and then two suspension bits, crimped bits, and that flat bit is pistonic and accentuates the highs, because ribbons are known to be a bit dull at the top. I read somewhere else that causes distortion. I don't know. Whatever it is they've done to make it bright at the top there, and also they made it, is it cardioid or supercardioid? I can't remember if it's cardioid or supercardioid. Anyway, unidirectional. It whatever they've done, all very clever stuff, because ribbons are naturally a figure of 8. All right, what would I like then? Well, I think a ribbon mic, stage mic like this. I don't know what you could do these days. Probably still going to be aluminium. Neodymium magnets, maybe, I don't know. I think it's quite a simple device, which is why I like the idea of it. And maybe I'd say do away, for me, with some of that top end there. For the moment, I'm using this, as I'm going to talk about this one later, the SR40V, but I'm just going to switch onto it, just so you can hear, 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 so you can hear. Can you hear the S's? The S's, they're there, they're natural to me. The S's are there, the S's are there, the S's are there, the S's are there, and it's a little bit accentuated on this. So I'd like it again to be flatter. Low end is good. Low end is good. Low end is good. So not too much of a change, really. Other improvements to this particular design is as always with most, well, handling noise could be better. Make sure this one's off. And yeah, that could be better. Always an issue with all of them. You know, you put stuff there, it reduces the clarity. So I don't know. So that would be one of my interests, would be, I know this was a recreation of the M500 and it's pretty close. I think I prefer the M500, but I'd like to say now, can you take this? Oh, yes. Can you take this and really just, because you know what I like, flat, fast, and expansive in terms of frequency response. And the other thing I wondered, seeing as it's the low outputs is right at the top on the Focusrite, maybe passive with active capability. So you might have a switch here which would activate with phantom power a preamp in here, so I could have that volume not right at the top, and that preamp would be ideally matched to the ribbon. But I'd like to be able to switch it off because I'd like the purity of a ribbon mic to be there. So that's one of my hopes in this fantasy world. I'd like to see a version of this beautifully made in terms of the accuracy. Reduce that at the top and do the best you can with this handling noise and the pops, and maybe have the phantom power option so I wouldn't have to crank that, or I could have it natural and passive. That's one. So it starts with the ribbon mic. So ribbon mic's one of the earliest mics that are around. Now I'm going to move on to, as I switch on the SR40V, I'm going to move on to the dynamic. Well, some of you have an idea. I think this is probably the best dynamic I've come across. There are loads I've never used, but let me move on to this one. Might have to adjust the volumes a bit. So this is the, yes, of course, because it's just come off the ribbon. This is the Biodynamic M88. The Biodynamic M88. The Biodynamic M88. What would I say then about a dynamic? Well, this to me is pretty close. This to me is pretty close. It just feels like it's fast and open up there. As soon as I said this is the Biodynamic can you hear those frequencies? Now bear in mind the note I'm using is quite low, but I'm accentuating the harmonics, and it's those harmonics there, where, which is a little bit in where this has got its lift. So I suppose if I was going to be fussy, let's compare it. Can you hear? Let's compare it. This one's just very neutral and flat, the SR40V. This is the SR40V. This is the SR40V. This is not the SR40V. This is not. So can you hear there's a bit of that extra there? There's a bit of which is all that broad band that the M88 lifts just a little, though it does it gently. And then the low end is a little bit of that Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear that this is just a little bit slower down there? Little bit slower down there. Little bit slower down there. This is not so slow down there. This is not so slow down there. So back on the M88. So it's a little bit more transparent in those low frequencies, this one. I don't know what the limit is on a dynamic microphone, because of course this is a small diaphragm condenser. Again, so I'd have that reduced. I don't know if you can do anything more about that, cleaning up that low end there. As long as you haven't got soggy speakers, I think it's okay. It just has a little old school warmth. I think that maybe, anyway, if you could do anything about that, making it cleaner like that, that would be great. Personally, I could do without the lift at the top there. I don't know if that's possible. I imagine it is. Anything else then? Yes. Can we do something about that? As always with all of the microphones, the pops, what can you do? Can you improve it at all? The newer one of these I think is worse for me with the pops. So can you improve it at all? Do you even need to, perhaps you need to make this, somebody said that the handling noise is there because there's not enough room, because it's quite a narrow mic, as you can see. It's not enough room to have a good suspension. So I'd say if you were updating this, maybe use a bigger body. Maybe have your new M88 in a body like this. So you've got more room for suspension if you need it, if there's not another way of doing it. It'd be nice to keep this. But if you had to have a bigger version or tapered version, whatever, and then it might give you a bit more room to put more mesh, because I don't use foam, which I don't like foam, I prefer the mesh. But there we have got some pops, as we have on all the mics. So that would be my request for a high-end dynamic. So I've had my request for a high-end ribbon for stage and studio. Why not? If it's up there, you could use it for both. This is my request for a high-end dynamic. This is close to it already from 1962 design, would you believe? So can we just, there's some things that could be tweaked to put it right up there with nothing better really as a dynamic. That's my request there. Let me just check. I've been covering things. The other thing I want to mention with all of them, yes, in these designs, I'd like them to fit existing mic clips. This does. It wasn't very happy with the old Shure clip, which was hard. It would be in there, but it would be a bit cumbersome. The new Shure clip is, seeing as mostly you're going to find Shure clips, I think, is much more elastic, and this will fit in there and be held nicely. This ribbon mic struggles a bit because you can see it's quite fat. So, and even in the Biodynamics own clip, it does fit in quite firmly, but you knock it and it's sort of a little bit on the way out already. The M88 fits very well. The Earthworks SR40V, no, the Earthworks SR314, quite a heavy mic, does fit in the Bayer clips, but you watch out because you knock it and it might come out, and it does fit in the Shure clips, but not very comfortably, and it needs to be right down the end there, but it's okay, it does fit in. I think we'll use the new Shure clips as standard. Some other manufacturers make mics which don't fit. I don't know what you feel about it. For me, I just think I don't want to carry a mic clip around. I mean, I carry my own stands with my own clips on, so it's not an issue, but when you turn up, if you're using a hired gig or just a gig, you want to take your mic, of course, then you've got to take your clip and you've got to stand there and do that, take it, and then you've got to remember to undo it and take it with you when you go. I think try to make it fit. Let's use the Shure clip as a kind of standardization, and hopefully they'll fit that. All right, now let's move on to condensers. We've done the ribbon, done the dynamic. What about this then? A bit of phasing while I switch the Bayer off. What about this one then? So for me, what could be improved on the SR40V? I haven't tried the SR, the new one. Is it the 117? Somebody did say it's got a bass roll off. But I don't know. Well, I'm using this as a kind of a reference because really, I don't know if I've heard anything better. Really, for what I want. I don't know if I've heard anything better. The handling is very good. The pops could be better. Anything else? I could maybe do with a little less output, just unbelievably, just a little, because it is very strong. It's not an issue, I don't think, but some things you have to have them right down because it's very high output, perhaps a little unnecessarily high. Other than that, difficult for me to say. Have I put anything in my notes? Nothing really to compare it to beyond that. So what I'm going to do now, just to finish off, so those are my wishes, if you like, is just do a little bit of swapping, just so you get to, and just comment as I swap. So let's just compare these two. High-end condenser, high-end dynamic. This is a high-end condenser. This is a high-end condenser. This is a high-end condenser. This is the high-end condenser. This is the high-end dynamic. So we notice that further away it drops off with the dynamic, as we'd expect. So I'm going to bring it a bit closer for the breath. This is the high-end dynamic. This is the high-end dynamic. This is the high-end condenser. This is the high, just a little bit more of that, isn't there? Let me just turn this dynamic up a little. This is the high-end condenser. This is the high-end condenser. This is the high-end dynamic. This is the high-end dynamic. Ha, ha. So that's that lift. But nonetheless, this is the high-end condenser. This is the high-end condenser. This is the high-end dynamic. This is the high-end dynamic. Solid piece of mic, that M88, isn't it? I mean, I'd almost say it's giving this a run for its money. So let's be rid of that. Maybe some pops coming up here. Let's try the why not, the 314. maybe a pop. So I'm going to turn it down before I let it stabilize for a bit. So I put the 314 at exactly, actually before I do that, I'm going to switch it on here because that does tend to make a difference. I just want to edit that out. Okay. Bit of phasing there. So let me switch it off. This is the SR40V. This is the SR40V. This is the SR314. 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 This is the SR40V. So again, you can hear the SR40V hasn't got that little bit of a lift or a mascara that the 314 has. As a result, I find this may need to be louder in a mix. May need to be louder because it hasn't got bits poking through. That's why I'm using this as a reference, because it seems to be the most neutral. Let's, more noise coming up. I'm going to move on to, just because I've got them here, this pretty little mic, the AKG Master Reference. So I'm just waiting for the AKG Master Reference to stabilize, and then we'll move over to it. I've got everything flat. It's got some switches here. Are we starting to get anything? Yes, we are. Are we starting to get anything? We are. Now, I notice immediately, wow, I didn't notice the other day, so I'm wondering if I've got a slightly faulty one. Let me turn. This is the, can you hear the hiss? Anyway, this is the master reference, and what do I notice? I notice a little bit of that compared to the SR40V. Bring it a bit closer. Bring it those little bits at the top there. Those little bits at the top there. You see, you don't get that with this one. I get that with a lot of mics. That is accentuated up there, which I don't really like. That's one of the issues actually I had with the ribbon. If you see the song I've just done a while ago with the ribbon, And I Love You So, my voice wasn't as clear as it might be, and the kind of slightly bubbly, slightly grated was being accentuated by that lift in the ribbon. So I can kind of do without it, which is why I'm after all this flat stuff. So let's go back to this one. This is the AKG Master Reference, and yeah, you got a bit of that going on as well. Bring it closer, bring it closer, bring it closer. Bring it closer, bring it closer, bring it closer. Okay, that'll do me then. I'd like a high-end ribbon, passive, with active capability, extended, flat, accurate and fast, with that little bit of slightly different ribbon thing sound going on. High-end condenser, Biodynamic M88 is pretty close to it there. I could do with a reduction in that lift at the top and a firming up of the bottom, if that's at all possible. We're talking dynamic, so there are limits to what we can do. It's pretty close already. Handling noise could be better. Pops could be better, but not at the expense of clouding the issues. That applies to all the mics. This is a condenser. It's difficult to think of anything better, really. I'd have to hear it, and then I could say, yeah, that's what I'd like from this. So it's pretty much there. Anyway, that's my 2 pennyworth, and I'll see you next time. Okay, this is the end bit I'm putting on, because I've got something here. It says, mic choice is an impossible task. That's cheered you up? Well, seems to me it is. With all these shapes and all these different voices, endless numbers of different voices, pretty much endless numbers of mics, if you include secondhand as well. How are you going to match it? trial and error. So that's why I'm thinking, coming back to this which I've mentioned before, give me a full flat mic, and is there some way that I can select what I require? If I'm going to do a rock gig and I know I'm going to be like that, just get rid of my bass. I could do that on the desk anyway, but I could do it here. The mic would be obviously phantom powered for that, but it could be ribbon, dynamic or condenser, because the phantom powering could be done for the preamp in here. And could I upload my settings so I can leave it flat if I know I'm going to be doing stuff when I want everything. It's going to be big, I want the low end and I want all that stuff at the top there. So I can leave it flat. But if that's causing a problem for whatever reason, then I can get rid of the bass and have that part of my voice if I want, just by this, or if I know there's something missing. So I'm going to show you beyond that, having it in the mic, why not? Then you're done. You've got the best possible mic, and you just select what you want. If you want a muddying thing over it, tell you what, I don't know if this is going to work. Give me a second. I noticed it at home with cloth, but I'm going to try it with this tissue here. If I want to muddy the sound up a bit, sorry, try and stop doing that, sorry. If I want to muddy the sound up a bit, can you hear? If I want to muddy the sound up a bit, it's done a little bit of something else, hasn't it? Hey, I quite like that. It's a bit of like, it's a little hint of an old school a bit of a telephone sound, but not quite as much as they tend to do it. Is that quite useful? Is that quite useful? Is that quite useful? Is that quite useful? I don't know. Have what you want on your computer, plug it in, upload it in one of your settings. Let me move the camera. Okay, some of you may have seen this before. I've got two of these. One of them I leave here at school, one of them I carry around with me, and I use it. I use it all the time. Really. I know I've done my test with it. It adds a smidgen of hiss. It's for life. And maybe it's pretty good in terms of quality, simple straight through quality. I've done a test straight through and not straight through, and it's good. It's a reverb thing, as you know. So I'm going to switch now to this mic, which is plugged into that. I'm going to switch this to SR314. Going to switch this off. Okay, now I'm on this. See what I've got to do? I've realised what I've got to do. I've got to put the gain up. I thought I'd set it, but I haven't. Because this M700, make sure not overloading on the door. No, this M700 is fairly low output. So now I'm going through, straight with the M700, I'm going through the TC Helicon Perform V. So as you know, it's got this kind of stuff going on. So I use it for that, add a bit of reverb as well. Why not? Where am I? Oh, hey, yeah. Oh, no, come on. What you keep it going? 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 So I use all that. Can use it live. It's very easy to use. Now, what it's got is this. Let's see if we can hear it. It's got this tone thing. What it says it does is it shapes it. Quite noisy now, this one, you know. It's old as well. Maybe it's dried out, the suspension, who knows. It shapes it. So let's hear. Now I've got that on. Can you hear? Now I've got that on. Can you hear? Can you hear what it's done at the top there? I mean, this mic's got quite a bit of that anyway. And can you hear it's compressed it slightly? My voice is more even in terms of the volume. And can you hear the bottom end is being truncated? So it's and that little bit there comes through at the top. Let me get rid of it. Now I've got rid of it. Can you hear? Now I've got rid of it. Maybe it sounds muddy now. I've got rid of it. Didn't sound muddy before. Just shows what the ear is like. I'm going to put it back in again. I'm going to put it, now it's back in again. Can you see? But I don't like it after a while. But I have used it on occasion when a noisy background with a lot of going on. I just lifted it without it being loud. It was a place where you couldn't be too loud, a restaurant type place. So now, what I'm thinking, I'm going to take it off and let's listen what it does to the low end. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickles. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickles. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickles. That's with it on. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickles. Taking it off. Peter Piper picked a peck. Oh, I can hear the speakers didn't like it. Peter Piper picked a peck of. So it depops as well and compresses and blah, blah, blah. So what I'm thinking, it's off at the moment. I'm going to put it back on. So what I'm thinking, now I don't like it, but anyway. What I'm thinking is, Not in this one necessarily. I can take it off, it's too much. Actually, I'm going to go back to the earthworks. So what I was thinking then is not that one necessarily, because it's got enough going on. It's got just about enough going on. Doesn't want any more. There's things you can hold down and do this, and it all gets too complicated, doesn't it? So I think I gave it 10 out of 10. I think when I reviewed it, that was years ago. So here it still is. But I'm thinking with this one, and maybe it exists because I haven't looked at the firmware of late. But imagine then you had your fast flat mic, and you were using a device like this, and it provides phantom power. Doesn't need it for this. Then that tone thing that they say, okay, here's our tone thing. But I tell you what, you can upload, because you can upload stuff to it, you can upload, I don't know, another 4 different shapes, including that compression if you want, or maybe you want a few more. I think 4, well, whatever. And it's on. You won't hear any difference because I'm not using that mic. If I hold it down, what happens? So if I hold it down, nothing. So some of the others, you hold them down and something changes. So I'm thinking even a firmware update maybe, and you hold it down and it changes colour, like some of these do. This ring round the edge, look. I've got my reverb on. See, it's green round the edge. Now it's light blue. Now it's dark blue. And now it's red, and that's more or less of it. The less you come round, the less of it you get, and back to where we were on the green. So we could do that. Hold that one down and have the different colours there. And I can have my SM58 copy. I've got a nice flat mic. I can have my SM58 copy on the blue. Something else on the one for a particular circumstance where I find all the bass is too much. Let me cut it, and I can choose where I cut it. You know, and for my voice and for the mic I'm using, I think no. I want like on one of my Bose things, I want 200 hertz, but my mixer only goes to 250, the low end. So I use 250. I can tell it needs to go that little bit lower, but the mixer hasn't got it. But I can have exactly what I want on something like that. And then the microphone problem seems to me, you don't need to see me really, but you may as well. You're going to anyway. Ah, there you are. So then it seems to me, then that the issue is over. You've got your just one mic. I know that sounds boring, doesn't it? But at least you can, if you've got the fast, flat, clean mic, you've got your voice. Tilting as it is. You've got your voice. So if you don't like your voice, tell you what, work on it. If you don't like your voice and you want it to be a bit more like that, then you can work on it. You can add some of that to it. If you find your voice is a bit too much of that, then you can bring it back a bit. You can work on your voice, but this just picks it up as it is. And then, for the circumstances you're in, either here or there, you just paint the way you want, even weird and wacky things like, as I said before, if you want that one that I've lost, if you feel that really you want something like that, do you want something like that, then you can have that in there. You can have everything you want, valve, distortion, the lot. Otherwise, what are you going to do? You're going to take your voice, you've got all these different voices, all these different microphones boasting this power, this projection, this. What does that really mean, and does it work with your voice? That's what I said. C'est impossible. Adios.